welcome to my run past. This little doggy behind me ran up to me to get pets, but then I had my selfie stick out and he got very, very nervous because people carry sticks around to like chase off dogs that are aggressive. He's a sweet little baby. So anyone who's waving a stick at him is just misunderstanding the situation because he's lovely. But there are dogs that will come up and try to bite you, and I wave my selfie stick at them, but I would never wave my selfie stick at that dog. That dog is very, very sweet. I'm not even like in my own frame here. So, I was thinking about this earlier today, and so we're going to get into this divide I feel there is from the start of learning Muay Thai, because that's what I'm talking about, but really learning in general. And then as you get better at it, the way you start picking it up or improving changes drastically. So I've written about before how the beginning of your journey, going from nothing to something, is a huge leap. It's just massive. So when you first start learning, it seems like you're picking things up really quickly and you're like, oh, I'm so talented, and like, you're doing so well. Because going from nothing to something is massive change. 0 to 1 is massive. It's way more significant than 1 to 2. So you might be learning very fast when you first start, which is great. And then you're gonna have some kind of plateau and you're like, what's wrong with me? I was learning so fast and now I'm not. Like, this is all just very normal. Because going from nothing to something is very fast, and then from something to a little bit more is slow, and it gets more and more and more slow as you go. So, one, look at these cows. Hi. Oh, pages. So one, be prepared for that plateau and don't worry about it. And two, you're gonna have to start recognizing your improvements on a like much flatter hill. Like, you don't make massive gains anymore after the first couple months. But I think there's a big change from how you actually acquire skill and get better at the beginning versus how that happens later on. At the beginning, you're building things. Like, when you're learning a new language, you're just learning new words, right? So you start building your vocabulary, and you're still thinking in your native language, and then like replacing each of those words with the vocabulary of the words that you're looking up or learning. And so you're kind of like Lego building in language. And then as you get better and better, you start thinking in that language. You stop translating from your language to this language. You start actually thinking in that language. And that's a big change. And that's the kind of change I'm talking about with Muay Thai. When you first start, you're building. You're like picking up vocabulary, you're learning strikes. You're like, this is how you throw a punch. There's a knee, there's a kick, there's an elbow, there's a teep. It's like clinching. It's like little building blocks. And you're not really good at any of them. You don't really know how to use them in context. It's just the word. And so you're like, this word goes when I'm trying to punch someone. And then eventually you learn that there are variations on Jesus. That scared the shit out of me. So eventually you learn that there are many kicks, there are many punches, there are different timings on things, there are different angles on things. And so that's this whole different way of like actually using a word in syntax rather than just having a vocabulary word that you're like, I know how to say bathroom in 4 languages. That's building. That's not actually knowing a language. What's interesting to me, and what I'm talking about here, is that when you stop building and you start understanding the nuances or the syntax or the timing or all these different things, is it ends up being kind of the opposite of building. It becomes what Derrida referred to as deconstruction. I'm not gonna go into what Derrida is talking about with deconstruction because I'm not a philosopher. I can't explain these things, but in a nutshell, his argument was, anytime you're looking at a thing, you have to look at what is not that thing, or like the difference between these things. So Kevin was using this example today of like, if you're reading on a piece of paper, the space between words, between letters, the margins, the lines, all of this absence, this deconstruction, these things that are not the words, are what allow you to understand what each word is. Like, nothing just runs together because there are these not words, not that letter, this kind of thing in order to shape it. And that's what happens when you start progressing in Muay Thai, when you already know everything. Master K, way back in the basement tape days, when I'd been training for like, I don't know, 2 years or something, he's like, you know everything already. I know the vocab words already, but I didn't know how to put anything together. I couldn't speak. I couldn't form my own thoughts. I couldn't even say what I wanted to say at the time that I wanted to say it in terms of Muay Thai. That's not knowing everything. That's just having the building blocks. And so you can like build different shapes of things with those building blocks. And now, this is a good 13 years later or something like that. Now I feel like the way that I'm improving, or the way that I'm learning, the ways that my Muay is getting better, is deconstructive. It's taking away excess movements. It's taking away what I call air bubbles. When I talk about air bubbles, if you guys are patrons and you watch the Muay Thai Library, you'll hear me talk about air bubbles a lot when I'm voicing for the Muay Thai Library, because you can see these vast differences between what the trainers and crews and legends are doing and then what I'm doing when I'm trying to imitate them. And you can see these kind of, what I'm referring to as air bubbles, are like pauses and gaps, and they're a little bit like in language when your mouth is trying to catch up with your brain, or your brain is trying to catch up with your mouth. You have all these fillers. You say things like or something like this. You just have some kind of filler so that you can catch up your mind and your mouth. These are air bubbles. When you listen to someone who is incredibly articulate and concise, and you're just hanging on every word because they have no fillers, there's no like, or they're not talking about nonsense until their mind can like come back around to what they're talking about. This is the kind of concise, articulate, no excess movements. When I watch someone like Chachai Sasakun or Sagat, who have actually very similar rotational force, their movements, they have such an incredible economy of movement. No movement is wasted. We just put Ajahn Metprik up in the Muay Thai Library. He was the teacher of Tongchai Torsilachai, who was Fighter of the Year in 2001. The guy fought forever. When he was Fighter of the Year, he was 30 years old. This does not happen. This is incredible. Tongchai was so powerful, and he was little. He was like my height and never fought above like 115 pounds or something. He's so small and so powerful. And his Ajahn Metprik, we have in the library twice. And when you're watching him, especially in this one that we just put up, I was geeking out about it the whole time, both in filming it and then in the voiceover, is he has no excess movement on anything. Anytime his body is moving or rotating, it can form into a powerful strike because he's just moving in this beautiful back and forth thing. Then when I do it, I'm taking like extra steps. There's like too many steps. And when we were filming with Ajahn Yai, he was a trainer of Gansak Sorpunjit way back in the day. And he was yelling at me when we were filming because I was following this pattern that he was showing me. He wanted me to advance on this pad man. And I was throwing some strikes and I was like moving forward, and I felt like I wasn't rushing and I wasn't kind of like snuffing myself, which is something I've had a problem with before. And he yelled at me and he goes, "My mua." Mua means like murky, unclear. It's what we would call a brawler, but it's just like, it's non-concise and it's just a mess. Like, it's messy. And people will yell at you and they're like, "My mua." And it was not until that very moment, I'd been told "my mua" so many times, and I have this whole like complex about it. I didn't fully understand what it meant, but I kind of understood what it meant, and I knew that I was doing it wrong and I could kind of feel it. But it was that moment with Ajahn Yai yelling at me and what I was doing, particularly at that moment, that made me realize what my mua actually means and what was mua about what I was doing. And it was this kind of excess. I was throwing too many strikes. Like, I was throwing things I didn't need to throw in a way that people will be like, sometimes when I'm watching fights with not super experienced fighters now, they'll crowd themselves, like they get too close, and then they're thinking, I need to throw like this combination, and they'll throw it and none of it comes out clean. Like, all of them kind of get slurred together, And it's like if you're trying to say a sentence and you just muddle 4 words together and you're like, none of that made sense. Like none of those were clear and now it doesn't mean anything. That's Mua. So I finally understood the excess that was being talked about in the context of that. And it's like you don't have to throw 5 things when you can throw 1 or 2 things and use the correct distance and closing the correct distance in order to make each one of those count. And this is a little bit about like when you're trying to make a point verbally, you do not need to like blah 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 for 10 minutes to get a point across like this. If you can be concise and you can wrap it up into just like a very short, concise little thing that people will remember, that's really brilliant. That's the kind of thing of like having a word like deconstruction that now can be a shorthand reference to everything that Derrida is talking about this look at what's not there in order to understand what actually is there, because what's there is defined by the absence of these other things. So beautiful Muay Thai, like Karahat's Muay Thai, these smooth, incredible movements are really defined by the absence of all the shit that would be like cluttered around it. It's very uncluttered. It's very clean. It's very concise. And that does not mean like I know the 4 things I'm gonna do and I don't do anything outside of that. It's not a combination. It's not memorized. He's deciding what he's doing in the moment. And what drives me crazy about Karahat, I don't understand how he does this, but he's so good at it. He can change his mind about what he's throwing midway through throwing it. So like he's throwing a kick because that was what was open, and then he sees you start to check it and he just turns it into a T. Like he just changes what he was doing in the middle of doing it. You have to do that in such a split second. It's insane. But when you start improving later, when you have all the building blocks, you're not building anymore. Now you start carving. And I think this is interesting that like improvement at a certain point is sculpting. It's carving away rather than building up. And I believe that both phases exist. If you've ever done some like pottery or something, you have to have this mass of like unformed clay and you have to lump it together in order to get literally the mass that you need in order to then start carving away. You can take things away because you had this much of it in order to shape that line, in order to define this, in order to pull a face out of it. It's very much like this. And I think that's really beautiful. And I think that it's kind of something that I've been feeling a lot more. And I feel pride in it in a way that I didn't feel during my building phase. In my building phase, I was just kind of like, I've already been taught this, like, why can't I do it now? It's kind of like I've been taught that vocab word, but I keep forgetting it. Or like I have that material, but it doesn't have any shape to it yet. And so I felt kind of frustrated because I was like, I have all these words. Like I have so many words, and yet I can't say anything beautiful with it because you have to start deconstructing. You have to start pulling away. And it's like you don't use all the pieces at once. You exchange the pieces and you like reshape them so that they can kind of fit together. This one only goes with that one when you like reshaped it. So I think that's super beautiful. And that's what I've been thinking about. And when I watch young fighters or inexperienced fighters, I can see this kind of like stark difference that I think often can be captured with the word root, right? Like, so they have this very ning, composed root, like they're very relaxed at certain moments. And that relaxation is a lack of the designated tension or the power or any of the things that are required in order to form that weapon or that attack or something. And so if you have someone who's just busy attacking all the time, it's just like boom, 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 going all the time, you don't have breathing room. It's like when I tell people not to rush and I talk about timing, I use a phrase that I actually learned from tattooers, which is give it room to breathe. So if you're throwing strikes, and this does not mean one strike at a time, you can throw multiple strikes at a time, but you have to have correct timing with each one of them that gives room for each weapon to breathe so that you can see it. If you muddle them all together, you actually didn't see anything. But if you give space for each one to breathe, It's like if you have a very, very tight tattoo, it's small and it's got lots of lines and it's got lots of color. You need bold lines in order to draw out the distinction, and you need lack of ink. You need open spaces in order to let it breathe so that you can actually see those individual lines. The same thing happens with being legible, having a beautiful root, having ning, and having like readable Muay Thai, is that it has space to breathe. It has negative space. It doesn't like clam all together, and it has bold lines at times. Like not everything is the same density. Not everything is the same palette. You know, you have to kind of like draw things out that way. So that's what I'm thinking about. And I'm distracted by a dog, and I'm becoming very Mua again. I don't know if that baby will let me pet him. All right. So sudden switch of topic before I head out. I've been putting up stories of dogs because half the reason, but I'll be honest, 80% of my motivation of running home is so that I can see dogs on my way and pet dogs on my way. And when I put up these stories, often I get people contacting, they'll put comments and they're like, I often see street dogs and I want to touch them and I don't know whether I can. And so they don't, because it can be dangerous. And this is what I say to these people, is that dogs will let you know pretty quickly and pretty clearly whether they're into being pet or not. If you like give kissy noises and you're like, oh, puppy, puppy, sweet baby, and they come over with their little tail going and they're kind of shy, whatever, they want to be pet, they're letting you know they want to be pet. Pet that dog. Pet that dog. If they skulk away from you and they're not really into it, don't chase that dog. That dog is either shy or skittish or not into it, whatever. Not today, maybe later. I was walking by a dog a bunch of times and he never let me pet him. And then one day he came out and he wanted me to pet him. This old boy right here, this beautiful old boy, he's gonna come over. Hi, honey. Diana. This old man here, he just kind of rushed me a little bit, but he's a sweet baby and he will let me pet him. And you can see in his demeanor that he's okay with being pet. There are dogs that will try to bite you. They will bark at you and they will kind of come to you with their heads low in a very like menacing, shark-like way. Get away from those dogs. Don't try to pet those dogs. I think it's pretty clear when dogs are aggressive. I've never had a dog seem like it was being really sweet and then suddenly bite me. That's never happened to me. It's pretty clear straight away whether it's a good baby who wants pets or whether it's a dog that's skittish or scared or wants to run away from you. Sorry. Agak panas. I love this old man. We bought a tree from these people, and I met this dog the first time when we bought a tree from these people. It's kind of like these ones, but smaller. This guy just now was like, do you want that dog? You want to take that dog home? And I'm like, yeah, I'll take him home. So, if a dog looks like it wants you to pet him, probably you can pet that dog. If a dog like rolls on its back and wants to be pet, you pet that dog. If a dog is kind of like, you're like, I'm not sure, don't worry about it. If you see it again, you can give it another try. And if a dog looks like it wants to bite you, it wants to bite you, and you need to stay away from that dog, for sure. All right. Thanks for my run cast. See you later.